Greetings once again, peace and love, truth and rights. One love to all spiritual people, all Rasta man of the world, everybody. Sending love to everybody. Today, I would like to talk about something that is affecting us all. And it's the division of society into two sets of people. Those who have the joke and those who don't. I mean, there's some places in the world that it's now mandatory to have the joke. And they're trying to enforce it here in Jamaica. They've closed down the schools, and all of the government employees and other companies have to take the vaccine. I'm not really here to talk about the vaccine. You know, whoever wants to take the vaccine, that's their business. But I think it's wrong to force this vaccine on people who have their own means of healing. I've noticed with the Jamaican government and the governments of indigenous people around the world, African peoples, that governments have never mentioned our traditional medicine that we have. This is because the governments are ruled by Babylon organizations and institutions that have been set in place to manipulate us and control us. Have you noticed that the governments are only reliant on the World Health Organization and never reliant on their own natural resources? The World Bank, the CIA, and other evil Babylon institutions have been using psychological manipulation and fear to control indigenous people and people of the world for a long time. From the Nazis of Germany and in slavery time and before the slavery of Africans in the Caribbean. Babylon has been using psychology. They've developed this psychology now to a level beyond our normal understanding. Me personally, I studied psychology at university, so I have some idea of the tactics and uses that they are using. Babylon knows how to use the powers of the subconscious mind to manipulate us and cause us to do things that we would not normally do. They have this down to a fine art. They have professional, expert psychologists working every day on how to control the masses. The biggest tool that Babylon used to control us is our own consciousness, our own mind. Our minds are the weapon of Babylon. And the way how they do this is through the institutions of schools, churches, the doctors. All of the government institutions are controlled by the evil forces of Babylon. We have, in a sense, become energy slaves to Babylon. For years and years, we've had our foot in two doors. We've been serving two masters. Our children have been going to their schools. Our children have been going to their churches. We have gone to their schools. We have gone to their churches. For years and years, we've been indoctrinated in a false Babylonian mentality, which is used to entrap us and enslave us. My personal experience here in Jamaica, with the schools being closed down now for over a year, and having to educate my 3 daughters by myself. One thing I've realized is that they're doing a lot better now than they were at school, being taught by me. And I realized that we don't need their schools. So if the schools do reopen, I'm not sending my children back to school. I don't go to a doctor. I've been living in Jamaica now for 8 years straight, and I've never been to a doctor. And when I was living in England, I didn't go to doctors. I personally don't deal with doctors. I heal myself. I use herbs, I use meditation and positive vibrations to heal myself and my children. We need to wake up now and stop relying on Babylonian institutions and become self-efficient. In this time of change, we need to come together and unite, plant our own foods, make our own schools, have our own medicinal systems set in place. Let us do our best, our very best, to become independent. We can use things like solar power to stop paying their bills, get water tanks, dig wells so that we have our own water sources. We need to become self-reliant. We need to wake up. What's happening in the world right now, Babylon didn't realize that so many people would be waking up right now. I mean, there's teachers now who are starting to go against the government and open their own schools, hiding from Babylon, because they don't want Babylon to know they're opening their schools. Churches too, which have been ordered to close down, are still continuing their services. And institutions like teachers and churches traditionally have always been under the heavy hand of Babylon law. But now, due to these changing times, people are waking up all over the world. Be strong, people. Let's unite. We are one. Let us not be energy slaves. Babylon, they are energy vampires, and they want to draw our energy and our consciousness, because they know our consciousness creates our reality. Yeah! And when they have control of our consciousness, they have control of us, our lives. Really, this world is supposed to be a beautiful place for everybody. Everybody's supposed to be happy and enjoying their life. But Babylon has kept us in fear for so long. Paying their mortgages, morgue meaning debt, paying their debts. Even the terminology that they use is all negative and designed to keep us in psychological fear. We must no longer serve two masters. We must no longer have our foot halfway in the door of the ungodly Babylonians, whose wish is to keep us down, when really we should be living a life in paradise. There's enough for everybody in the world to live happily. I can give you an example. In the 1970s, there was an organization called the Coptics. The Coptics were an Afrocentric church. Rasta church. Smoked a lot of weed. Now you can check this out on YouTube. These are facts. The Coptic church, by selling weed, supplied the whole of the Jamaican economy in Michael Manley time. And that money built most of the roads and the schools in Jamaica. The Coptic church was so big and made so much money from selling weed that they made even more money than Escobar, the big mafia from South America. And they did this peacefully without killing anybody. the American government decided to make a war on drugs. And they targeted the Coptic church. The Coptic church had 3 white members. One was named Brother Love. When they went to court, 2 of the white men pleaded guilty and got 10 years in prison. One of the white men said he's not pleading guilty because weed is not a sin and smoking weed is not a sin. He got 35 years. You can check this out on YouTube. And then the war of drugs came into Jamaica with Iyah. And not just in Jamaica, the war on drugs, the war on weed, the war on ganja, which is now recognized as a medicine all over the world. And for decades, millions of people were oppressed for smoking weed. Government money, government resources was spent paying police to chase people for smoking weed. People were jailed for smoking weed. People lost their lives, their dignity, their jobs because of weed. All of that money could have been put into positive things. Now, they've decided to make weed legal without any apology to all of the people who suffered during the oppression of weed. And now, just as things seem to be becoming better again, now they have this new thing they're fighting, wasting the government resources. Say they're fighting Corona. Now I have to be careful what I say here because I don't want to be shut down. But all these government resources could be put to more useful things. Don't believe anything they tell you. Because now Babylon is desperate and using desperate tactics to control the minds of the people who are waking up. Thank you, Jah, for this inspiration. Thank you, Jah Almighty, for the ability to share this knowledge and truth for those who have ears to hear. Jah! Rastafari. Peace and love.